Hey, this is Marie. Today we're making this simple crochet bag. I show you how to line it at the end. It is super fun, super easy. You can make it in any size. I'll show you how to do it. I used 2 strands of yarn held together. I used all ice yarns this time. I used Favorite. I used Softly Baby in these 2 shades. And then I also used Pastel Cotton. So I love how it turned out. I used a size K hook. I held 2 strands together. Let's get started. Okay, I'm going to hold 1 strand of the pastel cotton and 1 strand of the light salmon together, and I'm going to start with a magic ring, and I'll just go like this. I'm going to go ahead and flip it over. I'm going to make 7 single crochets in the ring. I'm going to go ahead and tighten up the ring so that it's a little bit easier to manage. There we go. Let me see what I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7. And then I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch into the top of the first stitch, just right there. Just like that. And then I'll go ahead and tighten it up. I'm going to do a chain 1, and then I'm going to do another single crochet in that same space. And then in the next space, which is the next, see, these are the tops of the stitches. I'm going to go ahead and put 2 single crochets in the top of each stitch. Okay, so I'll go ahead and tighten this up. And then we're back. And what you can do is just go ahead and put a marker in the top of this first stitch so that you don't get confused. But I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch to join. And so there's my first round of increases in every single crochet. I did 2 stitches in each single crochet. So now on this next round, what we're trying to do is make the base of the bag, and we're trying to make a flat circle, and we can go ahead and make this flat circle as large as we want depending upon how big we want our bag to be. So I'm going to go ahead and do chain 1, and then I'm going to do another single crochet. So there's 2 single crochets in that first stitch, and then in the next stitch I'm going to do a single crochet, and then in the next stitch I'll do 2 single crochets. We're just doing 1 single crochet in between the stitches that we're going to be putting the increase in. So we do an increase in the next one. And this is how we get the bottom of the bag to lay flat. And then we do 1 single crochet, an increase in the next one, which is 2 single crochets, and then 1 single crochet, and then we just keep going around like that. So we just did 2 and then 1, and we're going to do 2 and then 1 and then 2 and then 1 and then 2 and then 1. Okay, and then we'll slip stitch to join. Okay, so now we have done the next round, and we'll continue on with our bottom of our bag doing a chain 1, the 2 single crochets in that first stitch, and then we'll do 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, and then 2 single crochets. So on this next round, we're doing the 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, and then 2 single crochets. So it continues on out. Every round we do a increase, which is 2 single crochets in a stitch, and then we'll do 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, and then 2 single crochets. So just the more rounds that you get, the more single crochets you have in between your increases. And according to how the increases go, the original amount of stitches that you started with, if you started with 7 single crochets, you should have 7 increases in that first round, 7 increases in the second round, 7 increases in the third round. If you follow this method of, doing the increase, and then like right now we're currently on an increase and then 2 single crochets, 1 in each of these stitches, and then another increase. And if you look at it, you'll have 7 increases on each round, which is the amount of stitches you started with in the first round. So you can follow that method to make any kind of flat bottom to a bag, or any kind of circle that you would need to crochet flat for. So we'll continue on. I have just made an increase stitch so that has the 2 single crochets in it. And we'll do single crochet, 2 single crochets, single crochet, single crochet, 2 single crochets. Okay, so we'll continue around till we get to the end. Okay, so now on this next round, we will make a chain 1, and then we'll do the increase, that 2 stitches and 1 stitch. We'll do 3 single crochet stitches, and then we'll do another increase stitch. And then we'll do 3 single crochet stitches, and then we'll do an increase stitch. So we'll continue around, and I'll catch up with you when I get to the end of this round. Okay, I've come to the end of this round. I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch to join, and then I'm going to do a chain 1 and a single crochet in that stitch, and then I'm going to do 4 single crochets, and then an increase stitch with 2 single crochets, and then 4 single crochets, and an increase stitch with 2 single crochets, 4 single crochets, and then an increase stitch, and then continue around like that. And I will catch up with you when I get to the end. Okay, so now we're at the end of that round. We're going to go ahead and slip stitch to join, do a chain 1, another single crochet, and then we'll do 5 single crochets on this round between the increase stitches. Okay, and then we just did another increase. So that's the increase stitch, which has single crochets in it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then another increase stitch with 2 single crochets in it. And I will meet up with you when I get to the end of this round. And so you see it's producing a flat bottom for our bag. We'll go ahead and slip stitch to join. And we'll go ahead and do a chain 1, another single crochet in that first stitch, another single crochet in that first stitch, and then we're going to go ahead on this round and do 6 single crochets before our next increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so you get the gist of this. We're going to go ahead and continue on with the 6 single crochets and then the increase with the 2 single crochets, and I'll meet up with you when I get to the end of that round. Okay, we're at the end of this round. We're going to go ahead and slip stitch to join, chain 1, single crochet, and then on this next round we'll do 7 single crochets in between the increases. Okay, so I have the increase, which is the 2 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 2 single crochets. So we'll continue around like this, and basically we can just make this bottom as big as we want our bag to be, so the base of the bottom, and then we'll start going up the sides once we get the bottom as big as we like, just increasing in the same pattern. So it'll be, on the next round will be your increase stitch with the 2 single crochets, then there'll be 8 single crochets in between the next increase, and then the next round will be 2 single crochets, 9, and then the next increase stitch with the 2 single crochets, and then 10 single crochets. So you can just make this as big as you like. I will catch back up with you when I get the bottom of the bag the size that I would like. Okay, so I am at the end of the round where I have 2 single crochets, and then I have 10 single crochets in between the the increase single crochet sections. And I decided this is the size of the bottom of the bag that I would like. So I'm going to go ahead and stop here. So I did a slip stitch to join right here. And I'm going to go ahead and turn over the bottom of the bag, and I'm going to weave in the end. And of course you can wait and do this, but I just wanted to get the tail out of the way. And of course you can do this however you like. And I'll trim it. Okay, so now here's the bottom of the bag, and it's flat, and I really like how it turned out. Now I'm going to go ahead and start on the sides of the bag. So I'm going to just work in this back loop. I'm going to create a ridge on the bottom of the bag. And so basically I have another sample of the bag right here that I was working on before this. And it creates a ridge kind of like this. So you can see the bottom of the bag. And so we're going to be going up the side, and I'll show you how you do that. So I'm going to go ahead and do chain 1. And then I'm going to crochet these single crochets in just the back loop. So like if I'm looking at these stitches right here, I don't want to take the whole stitch like we were doing before, like both legs of it, and crochet into that. I want to just crochet in this back loop so it'll make that little bottom ridge. So I'll just go ahead and start to single crochet all the way around. I am going to go ahead and add a marker right there, just so I know where we started. I'll just go ahead and add that right there. And I'll continue to just crochet in the back loop all the way around on this first round until I meet up with that little marker that we put in. And now you can make this bag whatever size you want. If you wanted to make a really small one, you can do that to put like treats in it to give to children, or you know, whatever you want to put in it. Sometimes I will make a bag that's kind of smaller and I'll put all my makeup in it to travel with or whatever. So you can use them for anything you want. Or to carry snacks, whatever. Okay. All right, so I'm just crocheting, see how it's creating that ridge line, and I'm just crocheting in this back loop right here. I will meet up with you when I get back to this marker. So one more thing, just to be clear, we're not doing any more increases, we're just single crocheting in every back loop all the way around. So no more increases at this point. We're just doing the sides, and we want them to stand straight up. And if we keep doing the increases, it'll lay flat and it'll just make a larger circle. So we want the sides to start to form on the bag. So we're just not going to do any more increases. So no more 2 single crochets in any stitches. We're just doing 1 single crochet in the back loop of each stitch currently. Okay, so now we're back to the end of that row. And I'm going to go ahead and just remove that marker, but at least I can see where that first stitch is. And I'm going to crochet into the top, just like we were before, into the top of the stitch, picking up both the front and the back leg of the stitch. And so now we're switching over, and I just did a slip stitch to join right there so that you can see our ridge kind of goes around like that. I'm going to do a chain one, and then I'm going to single crochet in the top of each stitch, just like this. Just like we were before when we were doing kind of the bottom part where we're picking up both legs. We're not going to be making any more increases. We're just going to be doing the sides, but we will continue on. I can go ahead and put the marker back in here if I'd like to remember where the stitches began, right here. If you have trouble determining where the stitch begins, so that you can do your slip stitch to join and then the chain one to go up. Or you can go ahead and just spiral around. So we'll go ahead and continue crocheting our single crochets in the top of each stitch, picking up both legs. Just like that, so that there's no more ridges or anything like that on there, but we're just making the sides of the bag. Okay, I will meet back up with you when we get to this part right here, back to the stitch marker, and then we'll continue on. Okay, so we're back at the beginning of the round, and instead of doing the slip stitch and then the chain one up, I am actually just going to remove that little marker. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and just single crochet. And now we're just going to keep single crocheting all the way around, like in a spiral. We're not going to worry about where the beginning of the round is at all anymore. The only reason we were concerned with it is to make this ridge line up, because I wanted it to, you know, be like a continuous ridge all the way around the bottom. But now we're just going to spiral around, making single crochets in every single crochet until we get the sides of the basket or the bag as high as we'd like them to be. So I will just continue single crocheting all the way around, and I'll catch back up with you when I'd like to do the next step. That's what it's looking like. Okay, this is what my bag is looking like. I have come to the end of my first skein of this pastel cotton. I have trimmed my salmon, my other end of my salmon, because I still have salmon left over. And I'm going to be changing to this lilac and adding on the other skein of the pastel cotton. So basically just to add the other skeins on, I will be just tying them together and then crocheting over the ends. So we'll go ahead and do that one. Let me find the end of the lilac. And I'm going to tie that to the salmon. And I'm going to continue just doing the single crochets. So what I'm going to do is make sure that the ends kind of go down in the back. And I have the yarn to do the single crochets with. And so all my tails are kind of in this inside of this, if you can see that. And I'm crocheting around them. So that I don't have to weave them in. You can, of course, weave them in and later on. Oops, I missed one of the strands. And I'm just pulling these tails taut as I crochet over them. Okay, so now I'm just back to single crocheting the rest of the way around. I will meet back up with you when I get back around to where the lilac join started. For this particular bag, I decided I was going to make just 3 rows of the purple, and then I was going to kind of keep in mind where I started my purple, and I'm going to go ahead and do a slip stitch right here so that I can make it look like the end of the row, and the purple won't go up into the next row, because I'm going to go ahead and add gray. So I'm just going to snip the purple, the lilac strand, and then add in my Ice Yarns gray. And I'm just going to add it just like I did before. So these are the tails that we'll be crocheting over. So we'll go ahead and put those tails like this. And I'll just crochet over these tails to add in the new color. Okay, and so that's what it's looking like. I will catch back up with you when I do the next step. Okay, so now I'm back. I've done several more rows. I did the initial pastel cotton along with the light salmon, and then the pastel cotton along with the lilac, and then pastel cotton with the gray, with the lilac, with the gray. And now I'm ready to put my handles on this bag. So I'm going to go ahead and put some markers on the bag so I can decide where I'd like my handles. So I'm going to go ahead and set the camera down. Okay, so what I did was I went ahead and just folded the top of the bag in half. So kind of like this. And then I went ahead and decided, okay, I'd like my handle about this long, you know, from here to here. And I'll make a chain and then we'll crochet around it. But I went ahead and counted the stitches from each side in, and it was 12 stitches, and then I put a marker. Then I went ahead and counted 12 stitches, put a marker, and I went ahead and did it on both sides so that they were even. And so now that I have my markers, I can go ahead and make my handle. So we'll go ahead and do that. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I crocheted up to the first marker, and where the hole that the marker is in, I'm going to go ahead and crochet however many stitches I would like to make the handle like tall. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, I'm going to see how that looks. Okay, I think I'd like that. 15, that looks good. Maybe I'll do, yeah, maybe I'll do 17. So 2 more. And then I'm going to go ahead and crochet into that stitch that the marker is in. Just a single crochet. And then I'm going to go ahead and single crochet in each stitch all the way around until I get to the other side to this marker. So I will catch up with you when I get there. So basically it looks like this. I've got my single crochet in that stitch with that marker. I chained 17, and then I am back over here, did a single crochet here, single crochet, single crochet, crochet, and then I'll just do single crochets all the way around this side until I get to that marker. Okay, so now that I have single crocheted all the way around this side, and I did that single crochet in that same loop or the same hole as I put my marker, I'm going to go ahead and chain 17. And I'll catch back up with you when I get to the 17. Okay, so now I have chained 17. And then I'm going to go ahead and attach it to this next marker. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and single crochet in each stitch all the way around until I get to the other side where the handle begins. And then we'll do something a little bit different at that point. Okay, so now I'm going to just go ahead and remove those markers. And then I've met up with, put those aside, I've met up with the, done single crochets all the way around this side, and I've met up with the handle on this side, and I'm going to go ahead and just single crochet into every space across the handle. Now you can do whatever is easier for you. If you'd like to just go into the top of the chain and single crochet that way, that's fine. If you would like to single crochet into the top 2 like legs of the stitch and then have that bottom chain underneath, you could do that. I think it is a little easier to just go ahead and dive right into the center of the stitch like that and do your single crochets, but you can do whatever you'd like to do, just as long as you single crochet in each one all the way across. And basically we're just making the handle more sturdy. So I'm going to go ahead and go all the way around. I am going to single crochet all the way around here, all the way around this side, and then around here until I get back over to the handle again on this side. So I will meet back up with you when I get back all the way around the whole bag. Okay, so now I have crocheted all the way around the top. I have crocheted over the top of this handle, and I've crocheted over the top of this handle, and I've come all the way around to this front side again. I'm going to make one more pass all the way around the bag until I wind up here again. So I'll be right back with you. Okay, I've decided I'm going to do one more row all the way around of single crochets to just make it a little bit sturdier of a handle. So I will catch back up with you when I get that last round on there. Okay, so now I have finished. I went around single crocheting in each top of the previous round, and then I went ahead and I just slip stitched it into the top of this single crochet right here, and I snipped the yarn and pulled the tail through. So now I'll just weave in this end. Just going to pull that a little bit. Okay, that looks good to me. And then I'll go ahead and snip the end. Okay, and then that is how the bag turned out. I really love how it turned out. It's super, it was super quick. And you can make this bag any size you like. You can make it small, you can make it larger than this. We can line it with fabric, but I love how it turned out. It was super quick, super fun. I did end up using 2 full balls of this pastel cotton, and I just dipped into the 3rd ball. Just, gosh, not very much of it, but I just dipped into it. But if you're using scraps, you know, you can just use whatever you like. And I used just a portion of the 3 of these colors. So I didn't use a full ball at all. I wouldn't even say I used a half ball of those colors. So I would say maybe this one I used the most because it was for the whole bottom and, you know, quite a bit of that bottom on the side. So I love it. You definitely have to try it. It was super easy and super quick and super fun. Okay, so we're back and we're going to line the bag with some fabric, and I just thought I would go over with you how I would try to line this bag. And so here is what it looks like. So basically we have a round, a circle for the bottom. We're going to go ahead and pick our fabric and then put the bottom of the bag down because they'll all be different sizes depending upon what size you make. And we're just going to cut a circle that's the size of the bottom of the bag. The bottom of the bag, kind of close to the corner of the fabric so that I'm not wasting too much fabric by cutting it out like in the center of the fabric. And then I'm just going to go ahead and leave about, I would say about this much, about 1/2 inch or so around the base of the bag, and I will meet back up with you when I've cut that out. Okay, so this is how it looks. I basically just cut around the bottom of the bag just so that I had a little bit of a seam allowance for when I sew the lining of the bag, and I went of course, all the way around like that. Okay, and so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to cut some fabric for the sides of the bag, like the lining for the side area. And let me go ahead and put this over here. And what I'm thinking I'm going to do is measure with my tape measure around the bag. So I'm just going to see how big it is. And of course, everyone will be different because we're just making them whatever size we would like to make them. And so that is where we're at. Looks like 27 inches long. So now I'm going to take my, I'm going to put my bag over here out of the way. And I'm going to take the rest of my fabric that I have. I'm going to move my little circle out of the way. And I'm going to look at the fabric that I have left. And what I want to do is I want to make it 27 inches across. So I'm just going to check to see that I have 27 inches, and I do. I have plenty. So we'll be cutting it right here. So I will be getting my I'm going to do like 28 just to leave a little bit of a extra amount for a seam allowance. So yeah. Okay, that looks good to me. I'm going to go ahead and just make a cut. I do want to also note that I want to make sure that I have enough just to get to the top of this. I'll have a little extra seam allowance for the bottom, and I'll have a little extra that I can fold over on the top. So we can, before we make this cut, go ahead and measure about how much fabric we're going to need. So it looks like just under 6 inches, but then with a little extra. So I'm going to go ahead and do 7 inches. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 inches. So we don't need too terribly much of the fabric in the depth wise. So I'm going to go ahead and cut just up to there. Okay. There we go. And then I'll cut across. I'm going to go ahead and fold it first. I'll just fold it like this so it's a little easier to manage. And then I'll go ahead and I'm just going to make a cut right across here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and just trim up the bottom so that it's even. Okay, so now we have our sides to our bag right here. And of course we'll cut off this selvage. Okay, and I will be right back with you with our, we're going to go over to the ironing board and iron everything. Okay, I'm over here at the ironing board. I'm just going to press everything to make sure it doesn't have any big creases in it. Okay, and then we'll go back over to the sewing machine. Okay, so what we're going to go ahead and do is fold this in half with the right sides together, and then we're going to go ahead and clip up the side, and we'll sew this first, and once we sew that we will clip it to the bottom. So we'll just go through each step though. So I'm going to set you down. So we'll go ahead and put some clips on here. Okay, and now I'll be back with the sewing machine. Okay, so now we're back here and we're just going to go ahead and sew this side up. Okay, and I went ahead and just trimmed that edge with pinking shears just so it doesn't fray. Okay, so now I'm just going to make a tiny snip just to mark the front and the back of the bag, of the sides of the bag, so that it will make it easier to attach to the bottom. And I'll just go ahead and I folded it in half. I'm just going to go ahead and make just a tiny snip right there. And then I'll go over here and do the same. Okay. And that's just to mark the fabric. And I'm going to go ahead and do like this. This has the edge already on it, so that is the center of that side. And then this side, I'll go ahead and make a tiny snip here. Nothing big, just really small. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing with the bottom of my bag. I'm going to go ahead and fold it just like this, make a little snip here, here, and then fold it the other direction this way, and then do the snip here. But I'll go ahead and open it up, then I'll fold it like this, then I'll make a snip here and here, just a tiny snip, and then we'll mark everything. We'll be able to line everything up a little easier. So I will be back. Okay, so now that we've made our tiny snips in each of the corners of the circle, so we're going to match up the snips on here with the snips on the sides of the bag so that hopefully we can get it even. So I'm going to go ahead and set you down and we will clip together our fabric. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this seam the back, the bottom of the kitties. So I'm going to match up the little notch that I made with the back seam. Just like that. I'll put a clip there. And then I'm going to go to the opposite side where I have my little clip right there. You can see. And I'm going to match it up with the clip on the other side of the bottom of the bag, just like that. Like that. And then I'll put a clip there. And then I'm going to go to the sides of the bag and match up the little notches. That is a tiny notch. So just like that. Going to the other side. And this last little notch is right there on this kitty. Right there. So I'll just match that up, just like that. Okay, so now I'm just going to move you around. Oops. Get our little clips out of the way. Okay, so now I'm just going to put a few more clips on these sides of the bag. So I'll put one in the center. And I'll put one in between these two. And one in between these two. And then just continue around the bag like this. So the whole point was to just make sure that we kind of get an even seam on the bottom of the bag. Do that. One in between these two. Okay, and so we'll continue, and I'll do these other two sides, but you get how I'm doing this. I will be back when I get them all clipped up. Okay, so this is what it looks like. We're going to go ahead and sew all the way around our bag, and then I will be back to show you the next step. So I'm just taking my time and going slowly all the way around the bag, and I have the top of the bag, like the inside of the bag, like kind of up on the top, and then I have the bottom flat part of the bag facing the machine. And then I'm just taking my time to go around the bag, making sure that I don't have any like fabric bunched up when I'm sewing it. So I will be back when I'm done. Okay, so that went pretty well. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and use my pinking shears just to go around the edge. You don't have to, but I'm just going to trim it up with these pinking shears so that it's less likely to fray. And then I'll be right back. Okay, so here's how it looks. I just went ahead and trimmed it up with the pinking shears, and I'm now going to take it over to the ironing board. And then we'll go ahead and fold it down and iron it so that it fits right inside the bag. So I will meet back up with you at the ironing board. Okay, so now we're back over here at the ironing board. What I did was I went ahead and just put the inside of the bag inside of the bag, and I am folding down the edge so that it's just under where this bottom of the handle is. So, and then what I'm going to do is iron it once I get it all folded around. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I will be right. Okay, so I've ironed a short hem into the side of the bag right here, and then I'm going to fold it over one more time just so that it's nice and it doesn't have like a frayed edge on the inside. And then I will iron it like that fits inside the depth of the bag. So I will be right back. Okay, so that is what it looks like. Now I'm going to go ahead and hand stitch around the lining of the bag, inside of the bag, and we should be done. So I'll be back shortly with how I do that. Okay, so I am using just this like invisible kind of nylon thread that they sell. I don't have the ends on it anymore, and it's clear, and I'm just doing like a whip stitch kind of around the edge of the inside of the bag, and I am almost back to the seam that I started at, and then I'll show you how it looks. Okay, so here's how the bag turned out. It's just lined with the fabric, and there's really no, it wasn't too hard. It was really quick. It came together pretty quick. And I also made this little chain, and then I put a little tassel on it. And I just tied it up right around here. And I have a video, I can link it above, that shows how to make tassels. So, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and attach the tassel to the front of the bag. Okay, and that is how it looks. I really love how it turned out. Definitely easy to make. You can go ahead and make them any size you want, small, large, whatever. You can even put a pocket in the lining if you'd like. You know, just in the back here. Just sew that on right before you insert it in. So I love how it turned out. It's so cute. Thanks for joining me. See you next time. Bye.